Here we go, getting towards the weekend pretty quickly again. And we're a little over halfway now through August here on the 19th, 2022 for RPG A Day. Again, favorite. Why has your favorite game stayed with you? I'm still going to go back and rely on saying top picks or top pick game. Overall and in general, one of my top pick games has been redone. Now, they want to call it the OSR, they want to call it the Renaissance, Resurgence, or whatever. As far as old school essentials goes, I call it the reorganization. That game, that basic D&D game will stick with me forever. There's never going to be a day where someone can say, hey, you know, I want to play D&D. I'm running this game. And it could be 5th edition. And unless they do something dramatic, and I mean more dramatic than 4th edition D&D, unless they do something just over the top dramatic with like completely changing the system, the way something happened with Warhammer when the narrative dice system was invented. Talk about some serious backlash. I can only imagine what that would happen if that occurred in the D&D community. But that game will forever stick with me. All those basic concepts, the saving throw, the attributes, the however you want to say to hit, all that stuff, just the very essential cores of what makes D&D, I'll never forget. And it's stuck with me because it is at its core a very simple game to play. It's a pretty simple game to understand, and it's a fairly simple game to run, depending on which edition you're running. Games always seem to migrate towards complexity in one way or another. And the classic BECME model of editions, especially when we're looking at basic and companion within that range, they're just core games. A fun, even if you've never played D&D yet and you've played other games, it's just a fundamental game that I would recommend playing because it is just the essential starter. You could play it from a historical perspective. What was it like to play this type of game? You could play it from a nostalgic point of view. The ability to generate characters very easily, understand the basic core essentials of doing that, hasn't really changed much over time. Sure, there's different ways to roll dice, but it's still all the same stats for the most part. Depending on the edition that you played and whether or not you use Comeliness and Perception and all that other stuff. But the most modern edition, 5th edition, still pretty much relies on being able to be stripped back to basic. And it provides, especially the way it's reorganized, I have to give Necrotic Gnome very high marks for a great reorganization and a great job at clarifying the basic game. Because, you know, as its time and as it was the first one, more or less, it was a little difficult to read as a kid. And even as an adult and going back and reading it, it still can get a little confusing if you don't keep everything in context. But it's just easy. And it will be something that, like I said, if anybody said, hey, I'm running D&D, depending on the edition, I already understand the basics. It wouldn't take me that long to pick up and take part in a one-shot or maybe 3 or 4 session game. And that is why it remains a top pick, because it's kind of timeless.